Good morning, everybody. This is Darshak Mehta, your host for today's morning. It's a great time to see you all over here in post COVID 2019 sessions. And it's a virtual workshop for CCUS. I'm part of ADB's Technical Assistance Program 9686, which works on CCUS promotion in Asia. It is our pleasure to see you all virtually in this fourth edition of Deep Dive Workshop on CCUS. We have a list of eminent speakers from different geographies and different expertise. They will be helping you to understand the current status of CCUS and its implementation status. I'm pleased to introduce the first speaker of this morning, Dr. Priyantha Vijayatunga. He is the Director of South Asia Energy Division in ADB. He holds a PhD in Power Economics from Imperial College London and is with ADB since 2008. Prior to joining ADB, he was the first Director General of Public Utilities in Sri Lanka. He has contributed extensively to energy sector policies over the last 25 years, and he was incidentally the first project officer for the first CCUS deep dive workshop in 2016. Without taking too much of your time, I hand over the mic to Dr. Priyantha for his words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Darsha, for that very generous introduction. And it's good to be back in CCUS workshop again. Almost every year, probably I was making the opening remark, probably saying the same thing, but at least audience may be a little different. Good morning to all of you. Let me welcome all of you to this important deep dive workshop on carbon capture and capture utilization and storage in the Asia Clean Energy Forum. Uh, ADB has been a key development partner in Asia Pacific region. In our operations, we strongly emphasize on low carbon development in tandem with, of course, the economic development agenda of our own developing member countries. This is particularly true in our energy sector operations, because the energy sector forms a major component of overall ADB operations. The energy policy, which is being currently reviewed, clearly articulates these intentions in the form of promoting clean energy, increasing energy access, and improving governance in the energy sector. Along these lines, ADB has been supporting not only strong renewable energy and energy efficiency interventions, which is obvious, but also other low carbon interventions like creation of natural gas infrastructure, which obviously compete with other traditional, more polluting fossil fuel technologies like coal, and we promote high efficiency transmission corridors, evacuation of renewable energy and other generation systems. As all of us know, CCUS has been identified as one of the critical technologies in reaching the goals of the Paris Agreement and beyond. ADB has received help from Global CCS Institute and the UK government to create a dedicated trust fund for the promotion of CCUS. Since the inception of this trust fund as far back as in 2009, ADB has been promoting CCUS, particularly in those countries with good prospects for CCUS. To name a few, in PRC, Indonesia, India, Bangladesh, Mongolia, Pakistan, and the Philippines, and of course Thailand, ADB helped organizing conferences, knowledge products, study tours, and also supported pilot projects in some of them. It has also established 4 centers of excellence for CCUS in Indonesia and in People's Republic of China. With this experience and the lessons learned in the coming years, ADB intends to work closely with DMCs and provide need-based active support to go into next phase of CCUS. In order to support this process, ADB has a wide variety of financing mechanisms, both through our sovereign as well as in non-sovereign windows. Naturally, cost reduction relating to the capture of CO2 is a key factor in faster deployment of CCUS technology. And eventually, of course, it should make business sense to the industries where we work, where it's going to be deployed. We have observed several trends relating to South CCUS in Asia. One, the industries like oil refineries, cement, and steel industries have become active in controlling CO2 emission through CCUS. Two, the utilization of CO2 is the preferred choice of technology in the near term. And three, private sector is more active in adapting and exploring CCUS. Some of our recent activities in Asia include supporting CCUS project feasibility study in PRC, work with PRC in revision of CCUS roadmap, which we have supported developing some time ago, and a study in Bangladesh power sector to understand its readiness in CCUS. Also, we are planning similar interventions in India too in the near future. Based on these observations and our previous work, we have formulated this series of CCUS events in SEF in collaboration with very competent and influential partners. Yesterday, you may have attended a side event organized in partnership with the CCUS finance group of Clean Energy Ministerial. The event had participation from international finance institutions, private banks, and members of the Clean Energy Ministerial who are keen to support Asia in this group. This morning, we have invited the representatives of the UK government to share the UK experience, their vision for CCUS. The next presentation will be from PRC on the CCUS roadmap prepared in 2015, the process of updating it and taking into account latest development of technologies and changing business environment. The next segment of the session is on technologies from Japan. Of course, we have to keep in mind the ground reality. We have specifically invited technologies which are on the verge of commercialization, and I applied to almost all our DMCs in the ADB Asia Pacific region. This presentation on technologies will be followed by a group discussion involving some of the key DMCs in Asia. Overall, this short session has a lot to offer in terms of experience and ideas, as you can see from the list of eminent panel of speakers. Hope all of you will enjoy this session and use this information and knowledge to promote CCUS in your own organizations and your countries. We can assure you all the possible support from ADB. Of course, Darshak is leading that support in ADB at the moment. Let me take this opportunity to express sincere thanks to the panel of eminent persons in this session for sparing their precious time to share these expertise and the views for the benefit of our audience and, of course, overall our DMCs. With those few words, let me stop here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Priyanka, for that insightful introduction and introducing the program to all our viewers. Uh, we have a slight change in program now. We will be taking the next presentation from Dr. Zhang Xiliang. He is Professor of Management, Science and Engineering at Tsinghua University in China. He has been leading expert on China's national carbon market design and has also served as co-leader for China's expert group on renewable energy law. He is lead author of fourth and fifth report of IPCC. Currently, Dr. Zhang is leading an ADB supported project on revising China's CCUS roadmap, which incidentally was made with the help of ADB in 2015. With the change of circumstances, technologies, economics, and outlook, China is trying to revisit the policies and trying to refocus on how to work on it. His wide experience will be used along with a lot of other experts. So we have an opportunity to hear him in person on the future that is envisaged by PRC in the coming years. Dr. Zhang, Dr. Zhang, please take over. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your generous introduction. So it's really, hello everyone, good morning. So it's really a great pleasure to be here to join this online discussion today. So I would take this opportunity to give a very brief introduction about the midterm findings from the China CCUS Roadmap project funded by ADB. And So as we all know, China's CCUS is very important for China, and also according to this global CCS policy overview, so we can see China is among the leading nations in terms of the policy support and also the skills of the deployment of the projects, so in the year 2014, ADB published a CCUS roadmap of China. So the roadmap provided a perspective for China's CCUS development in terms of the deployment of the CCUS and also the technology, major technologies, and also the cost reductions. So from this, the previous the roadmap, you can see, and from the long run, the CCS really play a very important role. So in China's carbon dioxide mitigation. So the contribution from the deployment of CCUS could be as high as 2.5 billion tons. So in terms of the volumes of CO2 emissions. And so now this year, the ADB, as it started a new CCS roadmap project. The project would like to give an update on the progress achieved recently, and also the project will revisit and revise the key numbers and the conclusions of the CCUS roadmap 2014. I think the new elements of the project is that the analysis will extend the sector coverage from power generation sector to other industry sectors, such as cement sector, the iron and steel sector, and hydrogen production. And also, I think it's also the first time to integrate the CCUS deployment analysis with the 2 degree and 1.5 degree targets. So I think it's also very important to examine the role of the CCUS in China's low carbon energy transition. So this slide gives a very brief overview of the CCUS development and deployment recently in China. So as we know, China has continued support the Chinese government the Chinese government has attached great importance to the deployment of CCUS and provides continued support for the CCUS development. And so by this year, so the CCUS deployment lead to 1.6 billion tons of CO2 avoidance, but it's far less than the targeted 10 million as shown in the CCUS roadmap 2014. The main development sectors of the CCS are the early opportunities falls in the chemical engineering sector and also the power generation sector. But we can see there are still substantial barriers to the CCUS development in China, technology, cost, and transport infrastructure, and also the institutional barriers. So this makes why the CCUS deployment is far less than expected by the 2014 CCUS roadmap. So now this is give the major CCUS projects. So in the power generation sector in China, and also China start and project CCS projects in the cement sector. So this I think is a very encouraging development, and the CCUS, the carbon dioxide utilization mainly in forms of EOR, so enhanced oil recovery. So this is the major products of the CO2 utilization in China. So this slide shows the China's energy-related CO2 emission trajectories under 3 different scenarios. So one is the current policy scenario, and also the 2-degree target scenario and a 1.5 degree scenario. So you can see for the 3 scenario, the trajectory is different substantially. And so now this slide shows the scenario of the energy transition to achieve the 2-degree targets. So we can see currently the coal play a primary role, still dominate China's energy supply. But by the year 2050, so the contribution from the coal in the primary energy supply so will reduce to 16%. 60%. Currently, it's about 58%. So and the renewable and the nuclear, so the contribution so will be increased to 64%. So that means in the future, China's energy supply will be dominated by the renewable by the year 2050. So and for the 1.5 degree scenario, the energy transition picture also shows that the renewable play a larger role. So by the year 2050, the contribution from the renewable and the nuclear will reach 78%, and the coal so will reduce. The coal contribution will be reduced to 13%. So but even though so and so even so I mean the future the China's transition will be characterized by the renewal, the increments, the deployment of nuclear and the renewable, but how make the transition happens. So there is needing a policy to enable the transformation. So this is the carbon price needed to enable the transition. So you can see to achieve the 1.5 degree targets, so they need a very pretty high carbon price to make this happen. So although renewable so will be dominate the futures the futures energy transition in China, but we can see to achieve the 2-degree targets and the 1.5 degree targets, we also see the CCS can also play a very important role. So you can see by the year 2050, so the contribution from the CCS in terms of the CO2 mitigation can be as high as 2.4 billion. So that means And also we can, from this picture, we can also see the CCS can play a major role. So since the year 2035, so and when the carbon price, so it's after it's above $40 per ton. So the at that time, so I think the and then the US, the CCS can play a very important role. The early opportunities, so it's just I mentioned, is very much forced in the chemical engineering sector. So and the carbon price is for the whole, the carbon price is not so high for the whole the transition perspective. So and so this slide gives the say the some of the major findings from a new analysis. So we can first is about the total deployment of CCUS in terms of the CO2 avoidance. So you know, by the year 2050, so it's about 3.5 million tons, and for the year 2030, it's about 10 million tons. So those numbers are I think are much less than the previous protected by the previous CCUS roadmaps. But the later, so I think and the numbers is comparable to the previous to the numbers of the previous CCUS roadmap. The early opportunities, that means before the year 2035, the major opportunities will be with the chemical engineering, the natural gas processing, and also the power generation sector. And before the year 2025, we cannot expect a very high carbon price. We cannot expect a carbon price higher than $40 US. So and before the year 2025, so the scales of the CCUS development is not so high. But after year 2035, so and the transition, the CCUS play a very important role. So in China's carbon dioxide mitigation. So and also the opportunities will force in the coal-fired power generation sector, and also the bioenergy CCS, the bioenergy CCS, the BE CCS, and also the iron steel sector, and the cement sector, and also the hydrogen production. Also, the sector also have, I think the CCUS deployment opportunities will also be there. And also I think of how make it happens. I think it's very important to have a carbon pricing. So the carbon pricing, so only have a carbon pricing that the energy system transition can take place. And so you know that and China has already started the national emission trading program. So and it is expected that this year the program the program so could be run with the power generation sector, but ultimately the program so will expand to 8 sectors, so including the iron and steel sector and other energy intensive sectors. So it's a multi-sector program. So I think with the development of the roadmap, the development of China's national CCS, it will be provide dynamic incentives so for the CCS development in China. So I think I would like to stop here, and because of the time limitation, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Zhang. There has been very insightful journey that you have shared with us. It's very good to understand the logic and the path forward. It has also very well defined the contours within which we'll be working. Carbon pricing is going to play a very important role, and China has actually put up the infrastructure ready in terms of its own emission trading scheme. So hopefully things will go ahead. And there are a lot of things that the nations which are in early stages of their development will learn through this. Thank you so much. We will now move to the original schedule, wherein we were expecting to have a presentation by Dr. Peter Warren. Dr. Peter Warren is the head of the climate finance for innovation in the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy in the government of UK. He manages UK's climate finance investments under official development assistance and international policy across various areas of clean energy innovation. Dr. Peter was previously working with the International Energy Agency under Energy Efficiency Initiative. He holds a PhD in energy policy from the University College of London. He has been unable to attend this in person, even in the virtual workshop. So he has shared his video with us with the presentation. So I'll request to play his video, and it will be very good to learn from what has been UK's policy and the insights they are having. Thank you so much. Let's have his presentation.
So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on which part of the world you're in. I'm very grateful to be here in this workshop today. I'm Peter Warren, and I lead our climate finance for innovation in the UK government's Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. And I'm really excited because this is the third ASEF CCUS deep dive workshop that we've been involved in over the last 2 years, and we've got a long-standing partnership with the Asian Development Bank on trying to develop CCUS technology in the Asia region. And I'm really happy as well that we're joined by METI this year as co-organisers in what will be a very interesting and useful discussion on how to enable CCUS implementation in Asia. So I just wanted to sort of quickly just give a bit of background to what some of the session will cover. My presentation is going to focus on a bit on the context of why carbon capture, usage and storage, and then more specifically talk about some of our work in the region using official development assistance, ODA, for trying to develop this technology across different countries, and I'll draw on some case studies and also the work that we've been doing with the Asian Development Bank. And then the rest of the workshop will focus on demonstration projects and lessons learned from them, and we'll also hear from the People's Republic of China about the development of the CCUS roadmap that they are doing, and you'll have lots of opportunity to post Q&A. So we'll have panel discussion later on, and the Q&A box is open for questions throughout the session. We've also developed an evaluation form, so it would be grateful if you could fill that out towards the end of the session. And this helps us to look at what you found interesting and useful, what you thought about the virtual nature of this platform, and just to help our thinking as well about how we can develop this technology across the region. So just to move on to my presentation. So as I said, I'm going to focus on sort of, what is the background behind CCUS in Asia? What is the context? What are the opportunities? And then I'd like to spend the second half of my presentation talking about the UK government's support on this technology. So some data from the Global CCS Institute you'll see on the slide here. And their most recent data showing there's about 51 large-scale CCUS facilities around the world. About 19 are in commercial operation, with 4 under construction and 28 in various stages of development. So that means it could be early stage pilot development or towards the sort of later stage planning. There's 39 pilot and demonstration scale CCUS facilities and 9 technology test centers as well around the region. Within the Asia Pacific region specifically, there's 12 projects that are in various stages of development. But as you can see from those figures, actually, we're still well off track for the amount of CCUS that we need to develop. And you heard from Fatih Birol, the executive director of the IEA, earlier in the week in the opening plenary, saying that in his view, CCUS is absolutely critical for meeting climate change targets. And in terms of numbers, I mean, around 2,000 plus large-scale facilities will be needed to meet the sustainable development milestone goals for CCUS, both in industry and power. And historically, I think CCUS has had the mindset of being focused on power, but actually its use in industry is absolutely crucial. And we'll talk about some examples throughout this workshop on its use in industrial applications. What I thought was really interesting as well, for some statistics and figures and analysis that have come out of various reputable bodies like the International Energy Agency and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is that, you know, on a least cost basis, CCUS would need to deliver around 12 to 14% of emissions reduction, and that it would actually be around 40 to 128% more expensive without using CCUS to meet climate targets. So I find those figures really interesting and useful context setting. But there's a lot of opportunities. So, you know, industry, as I highlighted, this represents about a quarter of global CO2 emissions. And for some industries where there are few options for decarbonisation, CCUS will play an important role. But there's also, we're looking at, you know, the commercial frameworks as well around how can you you know, improve industrial productivity through, for example, reusing some of the CO2 that's captured. So there's lots of interesting work that's going on to look at business models and how to commercialize CCUS. In the power sector, the interesting context about Asia is that most of the coal-fired power plant fleet is about 13 years is the average age. So those plants will be a much more important sort of focus when it comes to thinking about the role of CCUS in the power sector. So the workshop will focus on how do we enable CCUS implementation in Asia. So I thought I'd just share, you know, some of our thoughts from some of our CCUS programs that we have, and both in Asia but also across the world. The importance of the right commercial frameworks to enable investment, private sector finance to flow, the important role of innovation to help in cost reduction, and innovation is a really core theme of ACEF this year. We've also seen through our work the importance of establishing legal and regulatory frameworks and the right policy incentives to support CCUS deployment. So again, this is across both industry and the power sector. Innovative business models as well, so I'm touching on innovation again, but it's not just about technology innovation, it's about innovation in finance, innovation in business models, innovation in governance and the institutions to deliver CCUS in countries. There's also the important side of the technical and geological side as well is crucial. So trying to understand what the geological conditions are within local context within countries, because geology varies greatly across the region. So what's possible, what's not possible, and what's suitable at that local context is a really important enabling factor. I've mentioned finance is obviously crucial, but also knowledge sharing. So it's great that we have this workshop today where we can learn from some of the demonstration projects that have happened across the region, to look at what lessons can be shared, but also where things are quite local and specific. So there's always certain aspects that can be learned between countries, and there's other things that are very context specific. So it's about understanding both. So the second half of my presentation, I just wanted to cover some of the UK government support to CCUS development in Asia. But just a quick slide to give the bigger picture. So the UK government has international climate finance, which is delivered through our official development assistance funding. And last September, our Prime Minister announced an uplift and a doubling of our international climate finance to 11.6 billion from 2021 to 2026, so over the next 5-year period. And this is part of our contribution to delivering the 100 billion per year finance commitment under the Paris Agreement that all countries signed up to in 2015. And as part of this commitment, £1 billion of that 11.6 billion will be specifically for clean energy innovation across the whole space of clean energy, but particularly looking at technology innovation and business model innovation. And this is all in the for developing countries benefit. So specifically to focus on CCUS and in the Asia region, so we have a £70 million international CCUS program using international climate finance. And this was developed in 2012. So we have a long running relationship with both the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank since 2012 on developing CCUS. So half of that funding is delivered through the ADB CCUS fund. And to date, that's supported a variety of countries, including Indonesia, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Vietnam, and Mongolia. And the sorts of activities that it supports is primarily technical assistance, so supporting the work of CCUS settlements, and these are currently established in Indonesia and China, training and knowledge sharing events, workshops that are very targeted, so they could be to do with capacity building for example, developing CO2 storage regulatory frameworks as an enabling factor to allow CO2 storage. But also project development, so helping on pre-feasibility studies, feasibility studies, environmental impact assessments, life cycle assessments, the whole range of studies that need to be done, but not just on the technical side, but also on the policy and regulatory side and the legal side to enable capture technologies, but also transport and storage. With implement pilot projects, because pilot projects are absolutely crucial for enabling cost reductions and demonstrating that the technologies work. So getting the initial pilot established is really important there. And we capture all these lessons in an annual review. So we have a annual review that's published every year. I've included the link on the slides, which you'll be able to access to last year's one, and the 2021 is just about to be published, so we'll post that link very soon. So this is my last or penultimate slide, but my last slide on the UK context. I thought it'd be useful just to share a bit about what the UK is doing as well, so not just focusing on its international support, but what is the UK doing itself. So I just thought a good way to frame it would be to think about what's happened since the last CCUS workshop at ACEF, to show you what actions have been taken forward since we last gave updates. So a few months ago, so in March, we announced a commitment to support the UK's first CCUS power station by 2030, so this is full scale, to provide around £800 million through our CCUS infrastructure fund to establish CCUS in at least 2 industrial clusters in the UK. And industrial clusters is an important option for trying to reduce costs as well, and try to get the development of CCUS infrastructure established. We've also published 2 consultations, so one specifically focusing on business models and what potential business models can work for different types of application of CCUS, and also looking at reusing of oil and gas assets for CCUS, and this includes our sort of oil and gas infrastructure in the North Sea off the coast of the UK. So just to finish then, I just wanted to quickly reiterate some of the exciting work that's going to be coming up and presented in this workshop. So we're next going to hear about the CCUS roadmap that's been developed in the People's Republic of China. And then we'll move into a series of presentations looking at lessons learned from demonstration projects and technology insights from across Asia, so from different countries. And then we'll move into a panel discussion to hear more about how we can enable CCUS development across Asia, and then we'll hear some closing remarks. So thank you again for the opportunity to present and to co-organize, and very much want to thank the Asian Development Bank and METI for making this happen, and particularly to the ADB for helping to really push forward the finance and investment and policy support that's needed to develop this across Asia. And just a quick reminder, if you could get a chance to fill out the evaluation form, that would be fantastic. So with that, I will close, and thank you very much again for the opportunity to present. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Darshak. Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kazuo Fueda of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Japan. Today, I'm in charge of the moderator of the session, lessons learned from demonstration projects and technologies insights for Asia. First of all, thank you very much for the presenters and the panelists to take part in the session, and ADB members, Dashak and Jimel, to arrange the event. This session consists of presentation and panel discussion. For the presentation, the three companies are going to share their insights regarding the CCS demonstration project and CCU technologies. First presentation is by Yoshihiro Sawada-san of JCCS. His topic is about experience of Tomakomai CCS project. Okay, please.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Kazuo. And I also wish to thank ADB for the opportunity to participate in this workshop. I am Yoshihiro Sawada with Japan CCS. Today, I would like to share some of our experiences from the Tomakomai CCS project in Japan. The Tomakomai project is the first large-scale CCS demonstration project in Japan. This slide shows the project flow scheme. The CO2 emission source is a hydrogen production unit of an oil refinery. The CO2 capture facility has a capacity of 200,000 tons per year. After CO2 capture and compression, the CO2 is injected into two formations. Our injection target was 300,000 tons in total. This slide shows the project schedule. It took 4 years for surveys and site selection, and 4 years for construction. CO2 was injected for 3 years and 8 months. Last November, we achieved the target of 300,000 tons. Monitoring work is being continued. This slide shows the CO2 capture process, which is a two-stage absorption system. The Tomakomai system is comprised of a CO2 absorption tower, CO2 stripping tower, and a low-pressure flush tower. CO2-rich amine is sent to the low-pressure flush tower, where much of the CO2 is stripped by flushing, which does not consume energy. Only a small amount of semi-amine need to be sent to the CO2 stripping tower, resulting in a very small reboiler duty of only 0.88 gigajoule per ton CO2. These diagrams show in detail the injection wells. The left figure is a schematic geological section. We injected into two reservoirs, a sandstone layer and a volcanic rocks layer. The CO2 was mainly injected into the sandstone layer, which had very good injectivity. The right figure shows the detailed design of the injection well for the sandstone layer. By drilling a deviated well, from onshore and drilling under the harbor, we were able to reduce the drilling cost. This slide shows an extensive monitoring system. The red lines show the injection wells drilled from onshore to offshore subsea floor. Regarding the monitoring system, the 3 green dots are observation wells. The 4 orange dots are ocean bottom seismometers. And the yellow line is an ocean bottom cable equipped with 72 seismic sensors. The orange dotted line is the working area for 3D seismic surveys to monitor the behavior of CO2. This is a schematic diagram showing the various sensors installed in the monitoring system. The injection wells in red are equipped with pressure and temperature sensors. The observation wells in green are equipped with pressure and temperature sensors and seismic sensors. On the seabed are 4 ocean bottom seismometers, and the yellow line is the ocean bottom cable equipped with 72 seismic sensors. Seismic technology is widely used in CCS to monitor the behavior of CO2 in the subsurface. The bright spots corresponding to the extent of the injected CO2 and confirm that the CO2 is stably stored in a limited area around the injection well, and the CO2 plume is evolving with the progress of injection. This slide shows the result of microseismicity monitoring. No microseismicity or natural earthquakes attributable to CO2 injection were detected in the vicinity of the injection area after startup injection. We confirmed that no earthquakes have been induced by CCS. This slide shows the public outreach activities. Before starting the project, we conducted a survey of the local citizens who asked for information disclosure and expressed concerns about safety. This was reflected in public outreach activities such as panel exhibitions, forums for Tomakomai citizens, site tours. As a result of these activities, we have maintained a good relationship with the local community and are proceeding the project smoothly. Based on the Tomakomai demonstration project data, we conducted a cost estimate of the unit cost of CCS. Assuming a scaled up case of 1 million tons injection per year, the estimated cost per ton CO2 avoided is about 7,000 Japanese yen, or in US dollar, about 67 US dollars. In summary, the target of 300,000 tons of CO2 injection has been achieved successfully. The experience and lessons learned are the understanding and support of the local community is vital in implementing CCS. A two-stage absorption system has achieved significantly lower capture energy than the conventional system. Deviated injection wells from onshore to offshore have saved drilling cost. Concerns about earthquakes and induced seismicity have been addressed. We confirmed that no earthquakes have been induced by CCS. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sawada-san, for introducing the CCS projects. So next two presenters are about the CCU. So first presentation is by the Takahiro Kamo-san of the Mitsubishi Hitachi Power Systems. He's talking about the introduction of Tomakomai CCE project for effective recycling of CO2 to produce methanol. So that this project is also held in Tomakomai, the same as the previous presentation of Sawada-san. Okay, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Takahiro Kamo. I'm from Mitsubishi Hitachi Power Systems, representing 3 companies and consortium. My next topic is carbon recycled methanol. And the first slides, firstly, I want to give you basic project data we are engaged in. The basic, this project is a joint research project on the effective recycling of CO2 emitted from the refinery at Tomakomai City, Hokkaido, Japan, where the CO2 is captured and stored by the existing CCS demonstration plant, which has just completed injection of 300,000 tons CO2, as just Sawada-san has presented. And this project is headed by NEDO, New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization. And this project is executed by the consortium of Mitsubishi Hitachi Power Systems, MHPS, and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Engineering, and Mitsubishi Gas Chemical, 3 companies. And those 3 companies were commissioned to execute research activities for CO2 capture and utilization in order to produce methanol from captured CO2. And if this result of the research is positive, NEDO will go to the next step, and the carbon recycled methanol synthesis plant will be installed adjacent to the existing CCS facility. Next slide. And next slide is about who we are and what we do. And 3 Mitsubishi Group companies combine strengths of each, and the Mitsubishi Gas Chemical provides supply chain expertise related to methanol production and synthesis catalyst, as well as process technology for methanol production in cooperation with MHR Engineering. And MHR Engineering leverage its track record of global EPC for a number of large-scale methanol plants. And we, MHPS, as a consortium leader, deployed experience with worldwide EPC for a variety of business. And MHPS has delivered power system to a variety type of business sectors, and accordingly has many opportunities for access to entities who want to reduce CO2 emissions. Next slide. And next slide is why methanol. Methanol is a key raw material in a wide range of industries. And this chart is abstract from the roadmap for carbon recycling technologies, which was published in June 2019 by METI, Kazuo-san's organization. And methanol is listed as one of the first examples of basic substances which can be produced by carbon recycling technologies. And next slide is also why methanol. Picture. And this slide showed you carbon recycled market forecast. Current market size of methanol is 100 million tons per year, and all the methanol are being produced by conventional process. However, a big growth of carbon recycled methanol is expected by several institutes. And this chart is a good example of such forecast by German Institute for European Market. And this study assumed 3 scenarios. The first one is intermediate scenario, and second one is ambitious scenario, and the third one is a maximum scenario where all the methanol demands are supplied by carbon recycled methanol, low carbon technology. If we look at ambitious scenario, the middle one, that means ambitious means they're ambitious and achievable scenario. And in this scenario, the expected volume of carbon recycled methanol is about 80 million tons per year in the stage of 2050. That is roughly 80% of the current global market demand size, so it's quite huge. We go to next slide. And next is overview of how we produce methanol. Left-hand side stands for the existing CCS facility, Mr. Sawada of GCC has just presented before. And right-hand side stands for the CCU facility, which Mitsubishi Consortium is working for. And byproduct hydrogen and CO2 are supplied from CCU facility, and also green hydrogen are produced by the electrolyzer powered by renewable energy from right-hand side. And those hydrogen and CO2 are used for the methanol synthesis process, and the methanol produced would be used as raw materials of chemical products and also fuels. And go to next slide. This is the last slide. And the last slide is a technology highlights. Firstly, the ratio of captured CO2 per produced methanol would be more than 1.3. That means the captured CO2 is much bigger than the methanol you produce. This ratio would be slightly different if we count all the CO2 emissions footprint in the adjacent process, and we calculate net avoided CO2 or net recycled CO2, whatever we call. That highly accurate calculation of such environmental impact will be included in our research that is ongoing. And next, one of the core technology characteristic of the system is higher water resistance of synthesis catalyst. The difference of reaction formula in between conventional process and carbon recycled process is as exhibited here. Reaction formula of carbon recycled process looks a part of conventional process. However, as a result of imbalance of water, the technological hurdle will be quite different. And our consortium is quite sure that we can achieve it. The last point is the hybrid system of CCS and CCU brings the benefit of sharing CO2 recovery functions, saving money, and enhance the interoperability of those facilities. Not written here, but I want to give you a simple message to everybody before closing my part. Carbon recycled methanol is not a moonshot project which only a few countries in the world can try. Every sector in every country can try it as long as we emit CO2 and hydrogen is available. I hope we can contribute to decarbonization of developing member countries through this technology. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Takahiro-san. So as he mentioned that the integration between CCS and CCU is very unique. And when it comes to the CCU or carbon recycling, the methanol and methane are the two very important points. So next presentation is by Tatsuki Wakayama-san of INPEX. His point is about the introduction of Nagaoka CCU project for effective recycling of CO2 to produce methane. Okay, please.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm Tatsuki Wakayama with INPEX. I'm very pleased and glad to be here today. Today, I would like to introduce a Nagaoka CCU project for effective recycling of CO2 to produce methane. So this project is supported by NATO and METI. So before methanation, I would like to introduce the INPEX briefly. So INPEX Corporation is Japan's largest exploration and production company, and the mid-tier E&P player just behind the world oil majors. So INPEX is involved in approximately 70 projects across more than 20 countries. So in May 2018, INPEX announced the vision 2040, setting the 3 key business targets and its quest to become a leading energy company, meeting the energy need of Japan and countries around the world. So, move back to CCU project. INPEX is also engaged in a carbon recycling project that involves the process known as synthetic natural gas and metathesis or methanation. Methanation is a technology used to be produced methane from catalytic reaction between the CO2 and the hydrogen. Long-term plans include utilizing clean hydrogen from renewable energy and commercially distributed the green methane through our existing pipeline infrastructure. This is expected to dramatically reduce the carbon footprints as CO2 emissions from the combustion of the methane, also coal-fired power plant, that is distributed will offset of the CO2 that is recycled and gas plant. Through the methanation, INPEX is expected to provide stable energy via renewable energy sources on a mass scale, contributing to the changing energy need of the international community. So this is a roadmap of the commercialized methanation technology for the future from now. We are still in early stage of R&D here, but however, we intended to intend to commercialize this technology through stepwise technology development to complement cost reduction due to scale up. In the commercial plant, so it's a 16 cubic meter of CO2 per hour produced from 1 million tons of CO2 to 0.35 million tons of the energy per year. So this is the organization chart of this project. The INPEX and Hitachi Zosen plays as a direct contractors with NEDO. So each has contracted with the research institute and the university, respectively, to do basic and academic technology development. Research teams of the various organizations conducting R&D in close cooperation for 4 objectives. Moreover, just recently, CSIRO from Australia joined our project for the pre-feasibility study. So this is the interaction with these research teams and their 4 objectives. First, as a bulk R&D objective, INPEX and HITS are trying to increase the scale up of the reactor and the system from 0.1 cubic meter per hour to 8 to 400 for the next step. Second and third is a micro R&D objective. AIST and Nagoya University are clarifying the reaction mechanism and simulating the reaction mechanism. Fourth, as a macro R&D objective, INPEX are conducting a comprehensive techno-economic analysis of the methanation system. Last October, INPEX has begun methanation test at this facility using actual reservoir CO2 generated by one of the our own natural gas production plant in Nagaoka gas field of the Niigata prefecture. You can see the number 1 PEM type electrolyzer for production of the hydrogen. Number 2 is high voltage power recycling facilities, receiving facilities. Number 3, a plate type of the methanation reactor. So 2 containers, 1 and 2, for processing various gases are placed on the back of these facilities. The system flow. So supplying the power from our GTCC power plant to the electrolyzer. The electrolyzer produces 5 lines of the hydrogen with electric power and then send it to the container 2. On the other hand, supplying the CO2 from our natural gas plant to the container 2 through the container 1 for dehydration and the electrolyzer for H2S. Mixed hydrogen and CO2 in a ratio of the 4:1 on one side of the container 2 and increase the pressure to 0.8 megapascal gauge. Then sending the mixed pressurized mixed gas to plate type reactor for methanation. So methanation down. So synthesized the methane is returned back to the container 2 in the purification. Finally, over 96% of the concentration of the methane is produced. So this is one of the example of the research result. So when the flow rate of the hydrogen and actual reservoir CO2 maximized with stepwise. The concentration of methane to reach the maximum soon. So, summary. The CO2 methanation technology can reduce the CO2 while utilizing existing natural gas infrastructure. The commercial scale plant of the 60 cubic meter per hour at over 2030X will reduce 1 million tons of the CO2 annually. The economics of the methanation mainly depend on the electricity price of the renewable energy. Under certain conditions, so if the electricity price is below 3 Japanese yen per kilowatt hour, the IRR is roughly estimated to be 9.5%. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Actually, here I'd like to take one question from the audience. So the question is about the to the methanol. So to Takahiro Kamo-san, is it okay? So the question is about what is the cost of renewable methanol production through CCU compared to conventional technology?
Okay. We'll try to give answer to such difficult question. To be honest, we have not set the definitive figure as a target price or target cost for the carbon recycled methanol project yet. But of course, in comparison with the methanol produced by a traditional process, the gap should be close to, sorry, how to say, the closer the better. That is a basic philosophy of our study. And the one benchmarking concept is that less expensive than water. That would be one of the targets. And more accurately speaking, less expensive than retail price of bottled water. In other words, 1 coin for 1 liter. So country by country, the figure might be different, but for easy understanding of the level of the cost and price, I compared with water. And as a basic material of methanol, achieving such level of production cost and pricing level would be mandatory to expand this technology in the world. I hope am I answering to the audience's question.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you again for 3 presenters, and the contents are quite fruitful about the lessons learned of Tomakomai CCS project and cutting-edge technologies and business models to produce methanol and methane. Okay, next, let's move on to the panel discussion part. So the CCUS, yes. Yes. Can I? Okay, so let's move on to the panel discussion. So first the experts of private and public sectors share the insights, and after that we'll have the discussion part. First of all, Dr. Rahmat Sure of Institute of Technology Bandung, Indonesia. So please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for the opportunity. Herewith, I would like to explain a little bit about the Clean Energy Fossil Initiative in Indonesia. First of all, I would like to introduce the organization called National Center of Excellence for CCS, CCUS, and Zero Routine Flaring, which was established based on appointed letter from Director General Oil and Gas in May 2017. Actually, our activity related to the CCS and CCUS has been started since 2009. And the main task of our group is to promote the reduction of greenhouse gas emission from energy sector in Indonesia. In Indonesia, unfortunately, incentive and also carbon tax is not introduced yet. But so that's why our organization tried to set up or draft a presidential decree related to the promoting of CCS and CCUS in Indonesia, as you could see on the right side of the slide. And then I would like to explain the recent status of Gundi project. Maybe all of you know that this project is located on the boundary between Central and East Java province. And Pertamina operate this field since 2013. 70 SCFD of gas production is happen, and 20% of them is CO2. So our project is to monetize or to make use the CO2, and we would like to inject all the CO2 back to the subsurface. Historically, the Gundi project has been started since 2012, and some contributors from foreign contributor has been given to us, such as startups project from JICA and GST, Asian Development Bank, Royal Norwegian Embassy, Kanso Technos, and lastly, we engage knowledge partnership program between COA and ADB. And based on our latest study related to the Gundi project, if we inject all of the available CO2, which is about 800 tons per day, to the active reservoir of Kedung Tuban structure, so the operator and the government could get additional gas production of about 36 billion standard cubic feet. And we have also calculated the OPEX and CAPEX for the additional infrastructure. And finally, we found out that this Gundi project is a good example that the injection of CO2 could give benefit to the country and also to the operator. And based on our latest study result, it attract Japanese government to support the conducting of feasibility study about JCM, Joint Crediting Mechanism. And it has been started since June 2020 together with Japan News Company and also with the J-Power. And additional information for you is that our center conducted also other topics such as development of GIS database for CO2 source and sink match. And then we look for the opportunity for installation of CCUS in coal-fired power plant, and also bioenergy CCS will be also in our study, which is already in collaboration with our partner from Europe. And lastly is about zero routine flaring and reduction of methane emission. This is with the contribution from World Bank and Anglo-Euro. And this slide shows the current GIS map connecting the CO2 sources and sink in Indonesia. And the sources is not only from oil and gas field, but also from the industry, from the power plant, and so on. And if we take a zoom to the southern Sumatra area, we could see that there are red dots, which are classified as CO2 sources. and also the green dots are classified as the potential CO2 sink. So basically, we would like to connect this, and perhaps we could show that the CCUS could be implemented as also an effort for monetization of CO2. And related to the bioenergy CCS, we saw that this is very possible to be implemented in Indonesia. The use of bioenergy, we know that it will give the zero emission but if we combine it with the CCS, it becomes the contribution for the negative emission. And we know also that in Indonesia, the biomass is quite huge in Indonesia, so that BECCS could be implemented also in Indonesia in the future. Last slide from me is an information to all of you about the upcoming summer school program. It should be conducted in December this year with the cooperation with IEAGHG. So this will be the 14th summer school program for the IEAGHG and will be the first time conducted in South and Southeast Asian region. And the selection process has been finalized. 50 postdoc, PhD, and master student has been elected from 20 countries. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Dr. Sorai, for your information about Indonesia. So next presentation is by Mr. Watimpong Kompetsak. He works for the Department of Mineral Fuels, Ministry of Energy, Thailand. So please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kazuo. Good morning, everyone. My name is Puttupong, Chief of Conventional Fuel Group. On behalf of the Department of Mineral Fuel, or called DMF, Ministry of Energy of Thailand, I would like to thank Cccs and ADB for invitation and host this meeting. I'm delighted to be here today to tell you about carbon capture and storage CCS in Thailand. I will take a few minutes for the presentation. And the outline of my presentation is only 3 items. One is Thailand climate change and energy policy. And then CCS activities and resource in Thailand. And the last one is conclusion. And let's go to the policy. Thailand has not a directly CCS policy, but we have Thailand Climate Change Master Plan 2015 to 2050. The Cabinet approved Thailand's Climate Change Master Plan 2015 to 2050 as proposed by the Office of Natural Resources and Environmental Policy and Planning, or called ONEP. The master plan has object to guide actions to mitigate and tackle problems arising from climate change, to promote the conduct of appropriate and effective action plans in all sectors and levels, and encourage Thailand to move toward low carbon society in accordance with concept of sufficient economy. For all of CCS activity have been driven from 5 plans. 3 of them done by Ministry of National Resources and Environmental, such as reduce agricultural burn, forestation, and clean development mechanism. And another 2 plans have done by Ministry of Energy. Now I will talk about CCS in Thailand by DMF. There are 3 events have been done by DMF cooperating with some organized. The first one, we are studying about a geological storage potential study, cooperating with Data Tech. Is a private company. And the second event is prospect carbon capture and storage in Southeast Asia, cooperation with ADB. The information is available on the ADB website. And the last event is the feasibility and regulation study, in cooperation with the PTIT, Petroleum Institute of Thailand. And now we talk about the result of the study. For the result of geological storage potential study, found that the total capacity of CO2 of carbon dioxide storage is around 1,009 million tons of CO2, and almost located in the Gulf of Thailand, and storage emission ratio around storage emission ratio per year around 8 years. And you will see that the potential is in the Gulf of Thailand, and some is onshore, but too very small. And we have some problem with I think it's the problem the same as the another country, because of the source of CO2 is too far from the sink. Here is the violet is the source area, but potential storage area is the Gulf of Thailand is too far. And the result of the feasibility study, Thailand CCC, we got the Thailand CCC roadmap for E&P industry. We divided into three phases, and the first phase already done, but for the next two phases or three phases move very slow, move slowly, because according to the policy, and some encourage from the another industry or policy. And now I'm may go to the conclusion. From the study, I think CCS or CCUS is technically possible in Thailand, because we have some area to store it. And financing remain a long-term issue. And about the oil and gas field in Thailand are approaching to the end. There are potential pilot project to do or to work. And existing regulatory framework can support pilot project, but for full-scale project require major modifications. That's all my talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your introduction. It's quite informative about the geological storage potential, and also that there is the roadmap, CCS roadmap in Thailand. Okay, so the next presentation is by Ms. Antikasari of Petronas, Malaysia. Okay, please.
Hello, everyone. I would like to thank the organizer for this opportunity. This will be just an overview of what Petronas's efforts are. Darsha, are we on the first slide? Okay, can you change the slide? Thank you. Okay, as you can see, that our efforts started way back, I think in 2009 or 2008. And I'll be sharing our roadmap since then. Next slide, please. Okay, so for us, right, since we are Petronas, a national oil company, we are the pillar of Malaysia's economy. So it is imperative for us to be an advocate, if not champion of sustainability actions. As you can see, in year 2012, we managed to reduce our CO2 emission by 12 metric ton. This is all just by a few efforts. Okay. Can we move on to the next slide? Okay, so as MPM, that's where actually where I'm attached at right now. We are the regulator, as well as we act on behalf of Petronas in the overall management of Malaysia's domestic petroleum resources throughout the life cycle of upstream oil and gas assets. And our role is actually as a regulator during planning and projects. We have to ensure that all the operators they incorporate the design of new upstream and downstream in terms of zero continuous flaring and venting in their facilities and also their projects. And MPM also, we have to ensure that in terms of field development plans by all the operators for high CO2 fields, they need to incorporate carbon capture, utilization, and storage technologies at the design stage. Without this, we will not actually proceed with the development of the high CO2 projects. And as we know, just as an information, that most of our gas resources, probably 70% after this, what we are going to develop is going to be high CO2 fields. Okay. In terms of decision making, we have this option but it's still not implemented yet in terms of carbon offsets. And also when we run the economics, right, we will actually run hypothetical carbon tax to ensure that all these projects eventually will implement CCS or CCUS. Okay, in terms of operations, we've already started zero continuous venting for existing upstream and downstream facilities. And we also manage to reduce continuous flaring in phases for all of our upstream and downstream facilities where operationally and it's economically feasible. At the same time, we also look at zero carbon, whereby after this, in terms of technology, we look at solar and whatnot. Okay, as you can see on the right-hand side, as Malaysia, nationally, we are going to contribute to the NDC, to the Paris Agreement, based on Paris Agreement of 65 million tons of CO2 emission by year 2030. And as Petronas also, we are committed to reduce our emission target by 7 million tons of CO2 emission. This is only from the upstream activities. Can we move to the next slide, Darshan? Next slide, please. Okay. Okay, as you can see, in the roadmap itself, by year 2020, some of the activities were actually As MPM, we are leading the CO2 sequestration area development plan. At the same time, we are also conducting a regional basin mapping study for CO2 and also storage development plan. Just like what being presented by the previous presenter, we look at source and sink at our peninsula as well as Sarawak area. Okay, in year 2021, the plan is to have a joint study with PACs, and one of our contractors is PTTEP and also Nippon GPEX. For high CO2 fields development, they are mostly marginal in Peninsular Malaysia. And by then, we hope that to get a very good technical proposal, both Technocom, and this will also involve utilization of carbon dioxide in year 2021. At the same time also, we are going to start our first sequestration project, our biggest actually, in Malaysia, whereby in year 2022, we hope to get a final investment decision for our first offshore sequestration project. At this point of time, we are doing a lot of storage development plans to see where is the best storage to sequester our CO2. Please bear in mind that this project will only look at carbon capture and storage. We still have not found a solution for utilization. However, we are working very hard in terms of technology to find the most cost-effective solution for utilization. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, we hope to achieve above FID or final investment decision for Petronas for a field in offshore Sarawak and we hope to be able to inject the CO2 by end of year 2025. This would be a very big milestone for Petronas because it will be done in our backyard, and this will be our first project, and it will be operated by Petronas Carigali, which is our arm in terms of oil and gas operations in the upstream. We will still continue our efforts in terms of CCS and CCUS, because like in the previous slide mentioned, by year 2030, we still need to comply to Paris Agreement, and Petronas is a big part of that. And by year 2030, the target or our pledge is to achieve 7 million tons of CO2 emission, GHG emission. With that, I'd like to end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's very informative. The same as Thailand, Malaysia also has the CCS roadmap targeting to 2030, and the new project is going to launch from 2025. This information is very good, very informative. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next presentation is by Mr. Mano Sharma of Indian Oil Corporation Limited. Please.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Mr. Kazuo-san. I take this opportunity to thank Asian Development Bank, the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, Government of UK and Ministry of Economy and Trade and Industry, Government of Japan for inviting Indian Oil to this very interesting and important event, considering today's global scenario. In my talk, I will be covering a brief introduction about my company, Indian Oil, is a national oil company of India, and its future plans to transition for a low carbon industry. Indian Oil is an integrated downstream major, and it has presence in downstream refining, petrochemical production, as well as marketing of oil and gas products throughout the country, and it also has presence in the alternative energy sources with a turnover of 87 billion US dollars. Indian Oil is ranked 117th among world's largest corporates in Fortune's Global 500 listing. Indian Oil accounts for nearly half of India's petroleum product market share with sales of about 90 million tons, 32% of national refining capacity and 71% of downstream sector pipeline capacity. India has recently upgraded to produce world-class Euro 6 equivalent BS6 compliant automotive fuels with sulfur content less than 10 ppm for supply across the country from 1st April 2020. As well as the automobile manufacturers have also upgraded their facilities to produce Euro 6 compliant engines for the automobiles. As per national commitment to United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change at Paris in December 15, India is targeted to reduce the greenhouse gas emission intensity to its GDP by 33% by 2030 from 2005 levels. In line with national target to cut the emissions, Indian Oil is fully aligned to India's aspirations to transit to clean energy and has planned significant investments to the tune of 3.5 billion USD in clean energy and sustainable development projects. Indian Oil is also working on developing new technologies for clean fuels. The company is focusing on renewable energy sectors like solar, wind, biofuels, waste to energy, compressed biogas. We have a state-of-the-art R&D facility which is taking various initiatives on development of affordable technological solution to meet clean energy demand of future. Under Government of India initiatives for sustainable alternative towards affordable transportation, nicknamed SATAT, Indian Oil, along with other state-owned oil companies, is targeting to set up 5,000 compressed biogas projects over the next few years. Further, in the near term, Indian Oil is looking at opportunities in carbon capture and utilization, batteries for EVs, electric charging stations, and also in the long-term vision of hydrogen economy. To begin with, we are already working on pilot projects to run public transport buses with hydrogen in city of Delhi. Indian Oil is one of the first in India to understand the importance of carbon capture, storage, and utilization as an important transition technology for controlling greenhouse gas emissions. We have a number of projects in pipeline in this sector. These projects are already at different stages of implementation. We are setting up world's first commercial scale plant for refinery off gas to ethanol production, which is expected to be commissioned by end of year 2021 at one of our refinery located in the north. The project is expected to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by about 350,000 tons per annum by converting refinery off gases containing CO2 to ethanol. Indian Oil also has projects for capture of CO2 from its MEG plants at two of its refineries located, one on the north and the other on the eastern part of the country, to make food grade carbon dioxide. Feasibility study for this is expected to be completed by January 2021, and project implementation is targeted by end of 23. We are already collaborating with the Asian Development Bank on this project. We are also looking at CO2 capture from reformers and gas turbine flue gas stacks at two of our other refineries at west and also in the northeast part of the country. For sequestering it to enhanced oil recovery plus projects at oil wells at Gandhar and Assam oil fields, partnering with our another national oil company in the upstream sector of India. These will be India's first CO2 EOR projects, and its feasibility study is targeted by November 2020, and the project completion is also targeted by end of 23. So through these projects, we expect to capture CO2 of about 600,000 metric tons per year, which is about 1,800 tons per day of CO2 capture for EOR. Besides this, as you are all aware, Indian Oil has a vision and appetite and intention to act on low carbon economy where CCUS plays an important role. We are doing our best, but the challenge of climate change is too big to be fought by us in isolation. We are seeking collaboration of international communities in terms of technology, finance, and experience sharing, specifically into technologies of carbon dioxide capture and carbon dioxide usage. We are keen to tap promising technologies which are mature in the laboratories or are in the early pilot testing stage. We can take calibrated risk and scale up such technologies after appropriate due diligence. Of course, such an approach also needs financial prudence and inputs. We will be looking forward to advice and support from international financial communities in this regard. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the success of this event with definite aim to move ahead for low carbon, clean energy economy, not only for India and Asia, but for the entire world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your insights. It's very informative to know about the Indian situation, both CCS and CCU. And for all speakers, again, thank you very much for the outstanding presentation and discussion. There are many kinds of fruitful insights. So we have the CCS demonstration experience in the busy area, Tomokomai. And also we have the technologies to convert captured CO2 into valuable materials such as methanol and methane. In the panel discussion, the experts in Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and India shared the situation. In order to promote CCUS, integration of the demonstration and research is essential. What's more, international cooperation is extremely important. I'm pretty sure this deep dive workshop will become the trigger for the further international collaboration. Thank you again for your attention.
Thank you, Kazuo-san. It's a very, very informative presentation and session, and a lot of technologies have been seen. We have also seen the introduction of the plans by so many Asian developing member countries. To end of the session and to give the final say on this, I'll be introducing Mr. Jin Miao Shu. He is energy specialist with ADB and is the focal point for technical assistance 9686, under which this deep dive workshop on CCUS is held. He holds a degree in environmental engineering from prestigious Tsinghua University of China and has Master of Science in thermal engineering. He has 14 academic papers, 2 patents, and 2 ministerial awards. So I hand over the session finally to Mr. Zhu for the conclusion and his insights and the way forward, how we see it. Thank you.
Thank you all for taking your time to attend the side events on finance, which was organized in collaboration with the Clean Energy Minister CCUS initiative yesterday, and a session on technology, which was organized with the BEIS UK and the MIT Japan today. This year, COVID-19 presented a unique challenge for all of us, but ADB thought of taking this up and engage as many stakeholders as possible in this limited amount of time. As such, this adversity was converted into an opportunity to reach more participants and speakers through a virtual arrangement. ADB's strategy was to have a comprehensive coverage of aspects of CCUS, which will help in its progress in Asia and the Pacific. The basic issues on finance was addressed with the representations from the multilateral financial institutes, private international banks, and industrial representatives. Collectively, they expressed optimism about the future of CCUS and assumed that of various financial tools for the sector to meet its requirements for the technology development, pilot testing, and commercial implementation. It was good to learn that the finance community is ready to handhold the CCUS industry. At the same time, it was also good to learn that the private sector is willing to contribute to emission reduction with first of its kind projects involving CCUS. Developing member countries of ADB are still in early stages of development and have a great opportunity to follow low carbon development through CCUS. So we designed a session that gives the DMCs an understanding of the future technologies developed by the UK and Japan. The session was also give an overview of the efforts in CCUS by China and its process of planning. The achievement of the limiting warming to 1.5 to 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels is the goal of our human beings. It has two aspects. One is to control the total amount of the GHG or CO2 emissions. The other is to complete the emission reduction work in a limited time. CCU is to utilize CO2 as resources and realize the carbon cycle to control the total amount of CO2 emissions from the perspective of system to meet the needs of the human industrial production and life. The promotion of CCU would make the capture, transportation, and other process more mature and reduce the cost through the utilization of the CO2 resources so as to support the storage of CO2. In order to reduce the CO2 emission in a limited time, CCS is the best technology route. At present, there are no other better technologies. We must finally focus on CO2 storage. The technical session helped us to understand the views shared by representatives of Indonesia, India, and Malaysia. This is equally important. It means that the next 9 of the nations are willing or ready to embrace CCUS. I take this opportunity to let all of you know that ADB is keen to promote CCUS in Asia and the Pacific, and we'll be happy to work with the technology suppliers, financiers, governments, and the industry to best of its ability. Please feel free to contact ADB for any help. We hope to see you again in next year. See you next year in Manila. Thank you.
So it has been a long session. A lot of learning has happened, and we will continue to look after this very, very interesting interesting discussion that we had. Hope all the DMCs will be taking their things forward. I can tell you that ADB is working hard to take things forward for Asia, We will be there whenever you need any assistance in terms of say knowledge sharing. You need any assistance on further assistance on uh, taking say next steps on your project implementation, feasibility, pre-feasibility studies, subject to our ADB's own norms. We can we can try to see how our TA or the funds of ADB can help you. Uh, let's keep in touch. The all the presentations will be available on the this website, and you can see it. The recording also, I believe, later on. Uh, to all the audience, just one final request before leaving, please go through the feedback form and fill it in so that you can so that your reviews are available with us and we can take into account your uh, discussions and your concerns into account and in when we are doing this next time. uh, Last but not the least, I must take this opportunity to thank all the supporters and co-sponsors of event. That is the BEIS government of UK, who have been sponsors for the whole CCUS program of ADB. At the same time, METI has been very kind enough to join and arrange for all the very important speakers over here. So we keep on looking at METI for future collaborations and discussions. And last but not the least, the technical team of ASF, which has been diligently helping us on all the aspects of this arrangement. Thank you so much to all of them. I take this opportunity to close this session and stay in touch. Stay safe. Thank you.